guys, my name is Chase and I'm so happy that you joined me today. This is going to be a short tutorial on how I made this beauty. This is a really large painting, and the painting I'm going to do today is not quite this big because I can't fit it onto the camera. But I did this a few days ago, and I have varnished it with a high gloss varnish, so it's super shiny. But I wanted to just talk to you a little bit about the colors that I used in this. It's a Dutch pour. I used a navy here and a deep magenta for the two sides, and then for the actual colors I used a bunch of different colors, but you can see some light blue in here. This is emerald green, and then kind of dominating this is this gold, which I'll talk to you about in just a second, and then some white as well. So the canvas I'm using for this video is smaller, but still, I think, on the bigger side. It's a 20 by 20 square canvas. I have taped the back edges to keep that somewhat clean. And the colors that I'm using, just to clarify, so I use for the magenta, this is deep magenta, it's Artist Loft acrylic paint, and then I use for the green, I use a metallic leaf green, which you can't really see here, I don't think too well, but it's got some shimmer to it. For the light blue, I used Artist Loft cerulean blue. And then for the gold, this is my favorite gold. It is Deco Art 24 karat gold. I like it for a couple of reasons. One, it's just super bright and metallic-y, but also because of the really cool things it does when you do a Dutch pour. It makes these really cool cells, and I think because it's mixed a little differently than other paints, it's heavier, and so it's going to pop out. It's going to break the surface tension of the paint in a different way than the other paints, so it acts a little bit differently, and I just love the effect it has. So I'm going to double down on that today, and I'm adding the same type of paint but in a different color. This is what is this? Berry. So I'm going to add this, and I know it'll compete with this, so I'm not going to add very much of either because they will compete with each other a little bit. But I want to see if I can get the same effects with this. I also think it'll blend nicely with the magenta. It did some funny things here. I just want to show you. You can tell it's transparent, so I don't know if you can see that. And so when I initially did the painting, it had these spots up here. This is just some marks here, but it had some spots here where it wasn't as thick as other spots, and unlike other paints, you could really tell the difference. And so I'm, for this one, going to put down a layer of the magenta and let it dry. All right, so one thing I didn't talk about was the navy color. It is a color I kind of made up, but I use it a lot. I simply take the Flow Acrylic Black and the Flow Acrylic Bright Blue, and I mix these together in whatever ratio makes the best shade of navy that I like. So I just love this color. I use it it's such a, for me, it's an alternative to black as a neutral color choice. And I like navy. I like what it does. I think it's just an appealing color. So I use that color a lot in my paintings. In terms of amounts, I just want to say with the painting this big and with the Dutch pour, for those of you who have done Dutch pours before, one of the main things is you want to make sure that your paints are not too thick, because you're going to be blowing them with a blower hair dryer, and you don't want them to just stick. You want them to flow. And so in terms of consistency, I try to get my paints so that they are making a tiny bit of a mound when you pour them off your stick, but that the mound pretty quickly disappears. My blue here is thinner than my magenta, if you can tell that at all, I'm not sure. The magenta I made just slightly thicker because, like I said, it's transparent. And so because it's such a thin color, I wanted it to be a little thicker so that it wouldn't be completely eaten up by the other colors, which are semi-opaque colors for the most part. So I'm going to go ahead and start pouring this paint on this painting to get started. So I'm going to be flooding the top third-ish at an angle here. Well, it's really more of a half, but... So this is pretty good. I like to get some of the air bubbles out. All I do is drop the painting a couple times and all those air bubbles will float to the surface and pop out, but you can also use a any kind of blower. I have like a heat gun, which I use sometimes, but I find just lightly dropping it does the trick. Okay. Whew, this is the part my heart starts pumping a little faster. Whew. Okay, here we go. So I've got my paint for the pour. So there is a little bit of strategy to what colors I pour down first, because I know how they're going to act depending on how opaque they are. This one is opaque or semi-opaque. It's got white in it. It's a blue but with a white in it, so in white is opaque, and so I put this down first. If I put it on top of the other colors, it's going to cover them, right? It's going to swallow them up a little bit. So I put my most opaque colors down first, because they're going to show up no matter what, right? And the more transparent colors, they have to fight their way through. All right, so I'm going to go with this green next, this metallic green, which I think is so pretty. I put my paints in these little plastic cups. I like them because you can fold them and have a little bit more control over pouring them out. All right, so I talked about the two metallics, this berry color, this Art Deco berry color, Now I'm gonna pour it keeping in mind of how heavy it is and the fact that it's going to dominate wherever it is. So I really want it to dominate it in the blue. I think it'll kind of disappear in the magenta, but that's okay. And same with the gold. I want this to, well, this gold looks pretty on everything, so I'm going to put it everywhere. But I'm only putting just a little tiny strip of it because boy does it want to take over. This white I'm putting on just to give the Dutch flow, the blowout definition. So the white is such a contrast to everything else. So it will, and I'm going to add just a little bit of water to this because it's not. Okay. Again, kind of some thin strips here. I don't want big blobs of white paint. Now with the Dutch pour, typically you will pour a little extra of the base colors on either side. And that's what you're going to kind of blow over the paints. But hopefully this is not the first Dutch pour you've seen, because I am not covering all of the basics of it. There are other videos out there that do such a fabulous job of that. All right. Oh, here we go. Breathe. All right. So I make sure the setting on my I'm just laughing because everything I own looks like this. I have the settings on cold, obviously, and on the lowest level. Okay, that's the hardest part. I wasn't sure about this, but then I looked at it and I thought, well, it kind of looks like it's folded over. So I'm gonna leave it. Now, I want you to see what that gold is doing. It is so cool to me. Look at this. And I know there's no silicone in here, there's nothing, but it just makes these such cool cells. Now that magenta, or that berry color, it's not really showing up, but it's in there. And I think once it dries, it's so metallic-y, it's gonna be so pretty. So the next few steps are nerve-wracking, because this is where I blow it out with my mouth and then also with a straw. And I tend to not like, everyone has their own style. I tend to not like heavy lines where the wave or the flame or whatever you want to call this just stops. I like it to kind of keep going in an organic kind of way, to be broken up a little bit. So one of the other things I like to do is just cut into it a little bit, and what I mean by that is I'm just going to bring some of this magenta in. It cuts up the form a little bit. Again, I don't like just these blobs of paint. I like it to have form and movement. Make sure if you're doing this, to clean off your palette knife or whatever you're using before you go back in. Otherwise, you're going to be smearing paint everywhere. Break that up just a little bit. I don't like this right here. It looks all muddy, but I think it's not the end of the world. Anyway, so I think I'm pretty happy with this. Because this is mixed with Floetrol, it's going to look a lot brighter here than when it dries. The Floetrol's white. You can see what this is doing though. Oh my God, over time, you can see the little cells that are forming. I mean, I don't know. I think it's so cool looking. I could just stare at this forever. So I will show a picture of this after it's dried. It's going to take at least a day, maybe 2 days to dry so that I can show it to you. But boy, if you attempt this, I'd love to see the results. I'd love to know how it worked for you. Okay, bye.